Yo, what's going on, guys? Rome Gaming here, back in another video. Today's episode, we're taking a look at the new hero talents for a Balanced Druid coming in War Within. So Balanced Druid is going to be able to pick between two, right? You can pick between Elune's Chosen and Keeper of the Grove. Just kind of briefly looking at these two, it does seem to me that Elune's Chosen might be more geared towards balance. Keeper of the Grove might be more geared towards defensive play style, more geared towards healing. uh, I haven't looked at every single talent yet, so we're going to kind of go through this together, be able to make a better decision on that towards the end of the guide here. But just for now, we're just going to do a quick overview of the talents, see what we think about them, see how they kind of synergize with some of our existing talents over here in our talent trees, our current talent trees. And yeah, just see what things look like. Okay, let's start with Elune's Chosen here, because I think that's the more interesting of the two trees. So starting out with Boundless Moonlight. So, by the way, before we get started, you're going to have access to all of these talents. However, some of these down here will kind of make you choose between two. But if it doesn't make you choose between two, then you will have access to all these other ones, right? So, just to kind of note moving forward, everything that you see here, you're going to have access to. It's not like you can only get one side of the tree and the other side you can't. You get access to everything. So, starting out with a Boundless Moonlight here. For balance, full moon calls down 2 minor moons that deal astral damage and generate 3 astral power. And then down there under both specializations, Fury of Elune now ends with a flash of energy, blasting nearby enemies for astral damage. So at first glance here, it looks like this side of the tree, or the Elune tree, is going to focus more around these two talents, New Moon and Fury of Elune. Almost looks like to me, right, going back to this Boundless Moonlight, almost looks like to me that they're trying to push Fury of Elune into more of an AoE Mythic Plus sort of build, and then New Moon for single target. Because I know right now a lot of top end builds are not running Fury of Elune. They're running New Moon in pretty much all content. So I don't know if they're trying to sort of push Balanced Druids to take Fury of Elune again, but that's just kind of what it looks like at first glance here. We also have Moon Guardian. So Moonfire and Starfire generate 2 additional astral power. So not super interesting. We also have Lunar Insight. Moonfire deals 10% additional damage. And then on the right-hand side, we have Glistening Fur. Fur and Moon can form reduce arcane damage taken by 6% and all other magic damage taken by 3%. Really interesting for PvP, especially considering it's arcane damage specifically. But regardless, you will have access to all 3 of these. So this is an interesting one, Lunar Amplification. Each non-arcane damaging ability you use increases the damage of your next arcane damage ability by 3%, stacking up to 3 times. So when you are in the eclipse where you're spamming Wrath, you're in a solar eclipse and you're spamming Wrath, basically those Wraths are building up charges to make your next arcane damage ability deal more damage, and that's probably going to be Starfire, right? So right now, in my opinion, Starfire doesn't feel super amazing to press. It's a super long cast time. It does do a decent chunk of AoE damage. Especially can be decently strong with something like Astral Smolder, wherever it is. Yeah, Astral Smolder here. But this is going to give you a little bit more punch in your initial AoE burst, right? That's a big problem that Balanced Druids have, is it takes forever for them to ramp up their damage. You don't see them to have super high damage in low keys. Maybe this is going to help offset that a little. Atmospheric Exposure. Enemies damaged by Full Moon, Fury of Elune, or Lunar Beam take 4% increased damage from you for 6 seconds. So this is an interesting one, but I think it synergizes pretty well with our current playstyle, right? You'll pop Celestial Alignment, you'll drop your New Moons, your New Moon, your Half Moon, your Full Moon, and then you'll send your damage, right? So right now with Celestial Alignment, if we take a look at it, this is going to give you access to both eclipses, and this is going to really amp your damage whenever you use that cooldown. So that will synergize pretty well with this 6-second window, just to further kind of funnel all your damage into that big burst window. We also have Moon Dust here, which is a really interesting talent, I think. It almost kind of gives us Frost Mage sort of vibes, right? As long as we have Moonfire up, they're slowed by 30%. It's also really interesting for PvP, right? Because it's almost like a perma-slow. So I think that's a really cool talent. It might not have any sort of effect in like a raiding environment, but for Mythic Plus and PvP, I think it's a really good addition. All right, then next we have Stellar Command versus Lunar Calling. So on balance, increases the damage of Full Moon by 15%. That's really cool. That's really strong. We also have Lunar Calling. So Starfire deals 40% increased damage to its primary target, but no longer triggers Solar Eclipse. So that's interesting. So it almost looks like to me that we can't go into a solar eclipse, which is odd. So it's almost like you just wrath 2 times. You go to lunar eclipse and you just go back to Starfire spams. Doesn't sound really fun to play. Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see how those kind of sim against one another. I guess this is geared towards Mythic Plus. I don't see who else this would be geared towards. I don't know why they would want to keep you in sort of like a one eclipse sort of play style, but who knows? We'll see, I guess. The only thing that I could see that they're trying to do with this is maybe they're trying to reduce our ramp time. And I know I said that a lot, but it is a big problem for low keys for Balance Druid. So maybe this is some sort of initiative to try to tackle that. I don't know, but it'd be interesting to see what happens here. Okay, up next we have the Light of Elune. Moonfire damage has a chance to call down Fury of Elune to follow your target for 3 seconds and generates 18 astral power or rage over its duration. We also have Astral Insight Incarnation. Chosen of Elune and Incarnation Guardians of Ursoc increase arcane damage only from spells and abilities by 10% while active, and then Convoke the Spirit's duration and number of spell casts are increased by 25%. So you have to pick between those two in the talent tree, so you won't actually get both of those, unfortunately. Light of the Elune actually does seem pretty insane, especially on really large trash packs, right? Because you're going to Moonfire potentially on 10 targets. Right? That means you could potentially get 10 different Fury of Elunes to call down and get just absolutely insane astral power generation and just get really nutty starfalls. So that sounds really fun, actually. I like Light of the Elune here, but Astral Insight looks really good too. Maybe that's more geared towards like single target, but I say that, but it is interesting that it only buffs arcane damage on the Incarnation there. But on like Convoke's side, the 25% increased spells is really strong for single target as well. So looks like to me Astral Insight would be single target, Light of Elune, AoE, but that's just my guess. All right, then we have Arcane and Affinity. All arcane damage from your spells is increased by 3% versus Lunation. Your arcane abilities reduce the cooldown of Fury of Elune by 2 seconds and the cooldown of New Moon, Half Moon, and Full Moon by 1 second. So yeah, both are kind of interesting. It's probably just going to come down, like most of these, which one sims better. Arcane Affinity is kind of boring, to be honest. Lunation will give you more variety in your rotation. So if that's something you're kind of looking for, maybe you kind of spec into that. And then finally here we have the Eternal Moon. Then finally down here we have Eternal Moon. This is not a choice node, so you're going to get both of these. You're going to get Full Moon. So Full Moon, New Moon, and Half Moon now also call down 1 Minor Moon. So that's really strong. And then Fury of Elune, the Flash of Energy now generates 6 Astral Power or 6 Rage, and its damage is increased by 50%. So that's pretty strong there. All right, and then let's check out our second option here, Keeper of the Grove. So interesting first talent here, Dream Surge. Force of Nature grants 3 charges of Dream Burst. Causes your next Wrath or Starfire to explode on the target, dealing nature damage to nearby enemies. Damage reduced above 5 targets. Then we also get Grove Guardians, causes your next targeted heal to create 2 Dream Petals near the target, healing up to 3 nearby allies. Stacks up to 3 charges. So I'm assuming the bottom part applies to Resto Druid, right? It looks like here, they have it split out between Balance, Guardian, both specializations. I don't see that on this side. So I'm assuming the bottom portion of each of these tooltips goes to Resto and the top portion goes to Balance. I don't know that for sure. Maybe somebody could confirm that in the comments, but that's what it looks like to me at least. So obviously with Dream Surge here, I guess it just really depends how much damage Dream Surge actually does. it has potential to be decently strong, but of course, damage reduced above 5 targets. It's almost like they're actively trying to keep this from seeing too much Mythic Plus play. So I think that's kind of interesting. Yeah, then right here we have Treants of the Moon. Your Treants cast Moonfire nearby targets about once every 6 seconds. Don't see how that's really good for a single target. Again, for Resto Druid and PvP, of course, or even PvE, this definitely looks more like a Resto talent more than anything. Just to kind of get some passive damage out there, so you can kind of focus on healing more. Don't see it affecting balance too much. You have Expansiveness. Maximum mana is increased by 5%. Your maximum astral power is increased by 20%. This would have chance to be, this has potential to be really good, but the way that it works with something like Star-Lord, right? Star-Lord caps at 3 stacks. So you could have 600 astral power as your cap. It doesn't matter. Star-Lord's only stacking up to 3 times, right? So I think to get a ton of value out of that, we'd have to see an increase in the stacks on Star-Lord. We have Protective Growth. Your regrowth protects you, reducing damage you take by 8% while your regrowth is on you. Looks like we had a typo there. Could potentially be used in Mythic Plus, but I don't see it being super strong. You'd lose a ton of damage while that's up. I don't know. It'd be kind of niche. But interesting talent there. We also have, looks like we have an option here, Power of Nature versus Durability of Nature. So if you go Power of Nature, your Force of Nature treants no longer taunt and deal 20% increased damage. So that's for balance. Right below that is going to be for Resto. So then we have Durability of Nature. So if you do choose that on the balance side, your Force of Nature treants have 50% increased health. So we have that. I don't see that affecting balance too much. I guess obviously Power of Nature could be decent there, but So up next we have Cenarius Might. Casting Star Surge or Starfall increases the damage of your next Star Surge or Starfall by 10%, stacking up to 2 times. Casting another spell cancels this effect. So this kind of goes into our burst phase, right? We pull up our astral power all the way up to as much as we can. Then we're going to dump it all, right? So that we can proc the Star-Lords, right? Because if you look at the bottom of Star-Lord, stacks up to 3 times again, and his stack does not refresh its duration. So that's why you want to have maximum astral power and then use it all at once so that you can get all those haste stacks for max duration. So this just kind of plays into that, right? It's saying, hey, as long as you're dumping all your astral power into the same repeat ability, either Star Surge or Starfall, we're not going to give you, you're not going to lose this buff, right? You're going to be able to keep that 10% damage. All right, over here we have a choice between Grove Inspiration and Persistent Enchantments. Wrath and Starfire's damage increased by 12% for Grove Inspiration. Persistent Enchantments, Orbital Strike applies Stellar Flare for 20 seconds, and Primordial Arcanic Pulsar grants Celestial Alignment for 2 seconds. Excuse me, for 2 additional seconds. It already grants Celestial Alignment, right? So that's pretty strong. I think Grove Inspiration is a little bit boring, right? Wrath and Starfire damage increased by 12%. That is significant. That is a lot of damage, but it's just going to come down, right, to which one sims better when you have these sort of just flat damage buffs to specific spells. But to be honest, looking at this, I would say Grove Inspiration would be more single target. Persistent Enchantments would be more for AoE, especially due to how Stellar Flare will be spread around. Up next, we have Bounteous Bloom. In early spring, Bounteous Bloom, your Force of Nature treants generate 3 astral power every 2 seconds. And then early spring, Force of Nature cooldown is reduced by 10 seconds. So Force of Nature is already on a 1-minute cooldown, so they'll go down to 50% per charge, it sounds like. Then we have Power of the Dream versus Control of the Dream. So start Power of the Dream here. Force of Nature grants an additional stack of Dream Burst. Right, Dream Burst, again, coming from Dream Surge, right, coming from our treants here. Then it looks like healing spells cast with Dream Surge generate an additional Dream Petal. I'm sure that's something with Resto. And then Cenarius Might increases spell damage or healing by an additional 5%. So Cenarius Might, again, coming from this node directly above. So I guess instead of it being 10%, it's 15%. So Control the Dream here. Time elapsed while your major abilities are available to be used is subtracted from that ability's cooldown after the next time you use it up to 5 seconds. I'm going to be honest, I have no clue what this means. What defines a major cooldown, right? Is that something that's over 1 minute? Something over 30 seconds? I'm not sure. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to increase your uptime on your treants with this build. I guess treants in this build would be considered a major cooldown. So I'm not sure what they're going for here, but that's my best guess. Oh, and of course, if I could read here, it says at the bottom, this affects Nature Swiftness, Incarnation Tree of Life, Force of Nature, Celestial Alignment, and Convoke the Spirits. So yes, it does affect Force of Nature, so that's really good. I'm not sure how good it is for balance. I mean, it's 5 seconds, so I think this is going to have the biggest impact on something like Force of Nature. Because I think it's 5 seconds per charge. I don't really know. Not 100% sure, but that would be my best guess. So I'm assuming that this is going to be more geared around Force of Nature rather than the others. Doesn't sound super strong for something like Celestial Alignment. 5 seconds isn't a huge deal, right? Then to the right, we have Booming Infusion. Every 5 regrowths you cast, make your next Wrath, Starfire, and Tangling Roots instant increase of damage. Deals by 100%. Then we also have every 5 Star Surges or Starfalls you cast, make your next Regrowth or Entangling Roots instant. So, for PvE content, I don't think that's going to be useful to us at all. We're not casting Regrowth too much in Mythic Plus content, right? So, Harmony of the Grove, each of your Force of Nature treants increases damage of your spells by 3% while active. That is decently strong. And then each of your Grove Guardians increases your healing done by 3% while active. So that would, of course, be the resto side of this. All right, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I think Elune's Chosen is going to be the winner for PvE content. And I think Keeper of the Grove is going to be better for resto druids or PvP content, specifically in Arena 2s. Maybe if you're running with something like Ret Paladin and you're in like a very strong sort of peel or off healing sort of comp where you guys kind of support each other, I could see Keeper of the Grove being pretty decent in that regard. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Did I miss anything? What do you guys think about Balanced Druid? Do these talents look pretty good? Do they look bad? And just kind of your thoughts. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and then we will see you all in the next one.